to help her structure the Department of Homeland Security. Now, if anyone knows who Erich Mueller is, he was the head of the East German Stasi, which was the most repressive, most surveillance intense, draconian police state that has ever been devised by mankind. And that is who she brought on board as her advisor to assist her in structuring our Department of Homeland Security. Somehow I'm offended by that. In fact, I'm pissed. But, you know, who am I? I'm just some little schlub out here. What can I do? And it's not just one guy, what you could do, but it's all of us. We all have to become inspired, compelled enough to want to change this system that we have no control over, that we were born into. I mean, I didn't create the Federal Reserve. I was born, the Federal Reserve was already in existence. I have to live with this. But what I can do is identify their weak points, and I can start attacking those weak points. And I can start not cooperating with the system they've structured it. I can start being sand in the gears. And I can start, I can move my money from a big bank, one of the big six like B of A or Wells Fargo or Chase. I can take my money out of that bank and I can move it into maybe a local credit union where it stays in my community. I cannot shop at chain stores. I cannot go to Walmart. I can shop at the local Ace Hardware.
You've got a little bit of wind on your mic there, Mike.
Yeah, yes, I do. I decided to sit outside since it was such a nice day, and what happens? The wind kicks up. So, you know, par for the course. If something can go wrong, it will at the worst possible time. I ask the indulgence of your audience to forgive me. It seems to have passed.
Yeah, it's no longer Murphy's Law. It's Obama's Law.
Yeah, it is. But you know, we could. I mean, I can pick holes in this thing all day long. The bottom line is the people of this country have got to get up off their dead butts and start participating, because it's going to affect you sooner or later. If you look at what's going on in Greece, you look at the massive demonstrations, you look at what's going on in Spain, massive demonstrations. I'm sorry, folks, but that's coming to a neighborhood near you really soon. And if the BRIC nations are successful in dropping the dollar as the world's reserve currency, it's going to happen before you know it. And then you're going to be saying, "Oh my goodness, how did we get here? What happened?" And then the police state is going to clamp down, and we're going to have a really, really ugly situation in this country that I hope to avoid.
Can I ask you as well? I mean, from your personal experience, have you got a positive outlook, seeing the things you've seen, knowing the things you know?
Well, I think that there's nothing outside of our control that we can't fix or change, but people have to engage on a massive basis. And you know, really, if you look at the math of what it takes to hit critical mass on something, we need 3% of the U.S. population. 3% out of 315 million people. We need about 10 million people to roll up their sleeves and want to go to work and change this country into something better than what it is today. That's all we need. Only 10 million. 3%. And we can move the world.
I'm not sure if that answers the question, because 3% of the population is not easy by any means. I mean, even the Green Party and Cynthia McKinney, what do they get? 0.2% of the voter turnout. So it's like G. Edward Griffin said to me, is that he's an old guy now and he's been working really, really hard, and you just wish that more and more would be getting accomplished than it currently is. But if you look back and you look at your track record and you look at how different things are in a positive way, this movement, these radio stations and things like that, even so much as a decade ago, didn't exist.
Well, you're right. They didn't. And we're starting to get that critical mass. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. We have a long way to go, but we can get there. And if people give up hope and fall into despair, then we're screwed. But we've got to keep optimistic. You know, I mean, I have my radio show is on. I'm on from 6 to 8 Pacific time in the USA. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 days a week to do my show. And I do it for the good of the people.
Indeed. weekend, as I do this as well. We're definitely not doing it for ourselves, are we, Mike? Because I don't know about you, but I took one hell of a pay cut to take this job.
Well, I do this one for free, and there's an advantage in that too, because when you do it for free, they can't buy your influence.
That's right. We'll be right back after the break at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com.
If you take an active interest in maintaining the optimum health and well-being of yourself and your family, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is the magazine you've been waiting for. Having taken Australia and New Zealand by storm, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is now available in the UK and Europe. Visit www.nznaturalmed.co.uk or call 01626 337 531 to order your copy now.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com and incidentally the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. It's a show when we talk about scumbaggery and our very special business of drug cartels every single day, 5 days a week, right here on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with the archives of the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. My very special guest today is Mike Harris from Republic Broadcasting and Veterans Today. Welcome back, sir.
Why, thank you so much. It's my pleasure again.
Now, getting into some serious business is what the government seems to do. Okay, I mentioned drug running there. And also we talked about over the break about creating solutions to these problems and how there is no silver bullet and that all the problems are very complicated. And I was thinking just systematically, how could you work through these interconnected problems and shred them and separate them in a practical way so that they can be eliminated one by one? For example, I would love to eliminate the Fed and the CIA and the Department of Homeland Security because of the fact that they are interconnected and they aren't going to allow the American people to be free. In fact, will strive to do the direct opposite every day. But they all support each other, nexus, kind of together. So in order to get rid of one, you would have to get rid of them all simultaneously.
Well, you would, and people have to realize that under the Bush-Cheney administration, the CIA, as we remember it, doesn't exist anymore. A lot of the operational aspects of the CIA were, again, outsourced. So we have private contractors who used to be CIA operatives, who are now private contractors working for whoever is willing to pay them. That's not a real healthy environment for a free people to have that. And one of the reflections of this you'll see is, the U.S. has used the CIA for decades to meddle in foreign politics, to influence foreign elections, to influence foreign leaders, to do all of these things overseas so that we would have our guy in there instead of their guy. The Cold War has been over now for a while, but these guys are still out there working. What they've done is they've brought the CIA techniques of how to manage elections and how to manipulate people. Those have all been brought to the U.S., and that's what we're dealing with now in our current election cycle, where you have all of these dirty tricks. I mean, dirty tricks in politics did not stop at Watergate, I promise. I lived through it during my own election whenever I ran for governor. I suffered from dirty tricks. They broke into my office. They put spyware on my computers. I even had what I will call an aggravated assault in front of my house when someone with a pickup truck tried to run me and the dog down while I was taking them out to go potty. It just happens. And those techniques of interfering in foreign elections are now being used by both parties against their opponents. And that's not how the American people expect elections to be run. But that's what happens because the criminals are in charge of the asylum.
Well, this is true. And I've always said, how are you going to take to court and prosecute somebody who owns the judges?
Well, that's a really difficult issue right there, and we need to find an alternative for that because it's pretty obvious that since the Supreme Court passed the Citizens United decision, which was a landmark decision where corporations are now deemed to be people, are persons, and corporations, because they have personhood now, have the right of free speech. In this case, free speech translates into money to spend on elections. So it means that you can be a foreign government, you can be a foreign drug cartel if you wanted to be, and you could form a Delaware corporation, which you could adequately fund through your ill-gotten proceeds, and you could give money to candidates, and no one can ask where the money comes from, what the source is, anything. So I think we're having a little bit of foreign and criminal influence on our elections this cycle. In fact, I would say massive foreign and criminal influence on our elections. And it's really a shame because it further disenfranchises the American people in this democratic process that we're supposed to be enjoying as a free country in the world. And really, people don't even know it. Everybody knows something's wrong, but nobody can quite put their finger on it. But this is what's wrong. I'm telling you, I've done my homework on this, and me and others. And you know, I've been taken to school by some really great people who have helped educate me and to open my eyes as to what's going on. And that's why I do my radio show. That's why I'm here on your radio show, is to help other people open their eyes as well and to be able to see through what's really happening behind the scenes.
So what is happening truly behind the scenes to your eye? I mean, are we talking about specific players that are involved here who need to be arrested and put away for life, or public
Well,
executions? What is it you're?
I think well, I think there are specific players. I think you can look at the Bush crime family, which Mitt Romney has aligned himself with. I think that there is enough right there that there are significant players, always have been. I want to remind the listeners, going back to Iran-Contra scandal under the Reagan administration, that that entire operation was run by George H.W. Bush, who was the former director of the CIA. And if you recall, one of the sources of revenue for Iran-Contra was that they were bringing in cocaine from South America. They were converting it into crack cocaine, and they were selling it into the inner city neighborhoods in East LA. And they were really abusing our black citizens in this country and really creating drug problems for them because they were considered to be the least valuable throwaways. Let's get them hooked on this, and let's have a revenue source that is free from scrutiny and free from supervision by Congress. And it was a way to subvert the constitutional process. It was criminal then, it's criminal now, and this practice has not stopped. And like I said a few moments ago, what we knew as the CIA has largely been outsourced under Bush and Cheney. And these are freelancers, privateers. And the same issues are going on then as are going on now. When the Taliban was occupying Afghanistan before the U.S. occupation, heroin production, opium production was at an all-time low. I spoke with Colonel Evgeny Khrushchev, who was the diplomatic liaison to Afghanistan under the Soviet occupation, as well as the diplomatic liaison to Afghanistan under the Russian during the U.S. occupation. And according to his numbers, opium production has gone up 5,000% in Afghanistan under U.S. control. So if we have drug laws in this country and that are supposed to be honored and enforced, why is our government enabling the production of opium and heroin to increase 5,000% under our watch? What's going on here? Something doesn't smell right, does it?
Well, I would refer people to the work of Michael Rupert from thewilderness.com and compvcia.com, and he's exposed that the CIA is involved in enormous amounts of drug running in and out of Afghanistan and other drug-producing nations, Colombia, where all these Contras are, and all of that sort of thing. And apparently, and this has been supported by Catherine Austin Fitz. I think she might have been the former Treasury Secretary or something of the United States, but they've said that they're pouring in liquid cash into the economy. So they go off, they sell their drugs, and they put their liquid cash into the economy through major corporations that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Because if you're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, apparently you don't have to fill out those transaction receipts for transactions over $10,000. You don't have to explain where your money comes from. They say it's numbering in about $500 million annually in liquid cash through the economy. So